Donald Trump, the man who defied the world. Some call him a genius, others a madman. For many, he is the symbol of courage. For others, the portrait of arrogance. But one thing no one can deny. Donald Trump is the man who dared to challenge the world, and somehow prevailed. While the powerful hid behind rehearsed speeches, he spoke what no one dared to say. And that's precisely why they loved him, and hated him with equal intensity. How did a man born into luxury become the voice of the forgotten? What lies behind the mind of someone who turned bankruptcy into strategy, criticism into fuel, and scandals into lucrative headlines? The secret may lie in the fact that Trump never wanted to be understood. He wanted to be remembered. And this difference set him apart from everyone else. Because while some sought approval, he demanded impact. Today, you'll discover the story the world has tried to simplify, but which is far more complex than it seems. Get ready to meet the empire, the myth, and the man who redefined global power. If you enjoy understanding what lies behind the scenes of history, like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because what follows will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about Donald Trump. If you enjoy videos like this, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to continue exploring the behind-the-scenes of power, wars, and the minds that changed the course of history. The Trump family's childhood and legacy. Donald Trump was born into a home where success wasn't just an ambition, it was almost an obligation. His father, Fred Trump, built an empire of bricks and discipline, teaching his son that the world belongs to those who dare to push the boundaries. From an early age, Donald watched his father negotiate land and erect buildings, learning as a boy that power isn't achieved through hesitation. He grew up surrounded by concrete, numbers, and a mindset that valued results over excuses. While other children dreamed of toys, Trump dreamed of skyscrapers. He was raised to compete, not to participate, a trait that would later define his entire career. When sent to military academy, he learned the rigor of hierarchy and the coldness of quick decisions. There, amid marches and orders, the dominant trait of his personality was born, the unshakable conviction that the world respects only the strong. This belief would become the foundation of his journey. But the truth is that behind the brilliance and ambition, there was a boy seeking to prove something, perhaps to his father, perhaps to destiny itself. Little Donald learned early on that recognition is the fuel of empires, and that without challenges, there is no conquest. Little did he know that these familiar lessons would be the prelude to one of the most controversial and fascinating stories in modern politics. A story that would begin when he decided to transform his name into a symbol of power. The real estate empire and the birth of the entrepreneur. It was in New York, the city that never sleeps, that Donald Trump understood that money, power, and influence weren't just tools. They were languages. Inheriting the foundation of his father's empire, he decided to do more than just manage. He wanted to make his own mark on history. Where many saw ordinary buildings, he saw monuments to ambition. And that's how the name Trump began to shine on golden signs that seemed to scream, "I've arrived." The strategy was simple and bold: transform real estate into status symbols. Trump didn't just sell apartments, he sold prestige. Trump Tower became more than a building. It became a temple for those who desired to touch luxury. And while the media called him self-centered, he called it marketing. The truth is, he understood something few do. People don't buy the product, they buy the image they want to project. But the road to the top is rarely paved with flowers. Through ups and downs, bankruptcies and triumphant returns, Trump learned the art of falling without appearing defeated. He rebuilt his businesses with the same tenacity of someone who refuses failure as destiny. And with each fall, the image of a man who seemed made of steel grew. Little did his critics know that this empire was merely a rehearsal for something much greater. a stage where he would cease to be a mere businessman and become a political phenomenon, entering politics and challenging the system. When Donald Trump announced his run for President of the United States, the world laughed. Politicians called him an amateur, journalists dismissed him as a joke, and pundits said he wouldn't survive a week in the political heat. But Trump has always thrived on disbelief. He knew that disbelief was one of the purest forms of fuel. And so, while the establishment scoffed, he built something bigger, a movement. Trump understood that people no longer wanted speeches, they wanted a voice. His direct, raw, and often controversial language shattered the polished veneer of traditional politics. He spoke what others feared to say, and for that, he was heard. He transformed the people's anger into a narrative, and the narrative into power. He wasn't a politician who emerged, but a strategist who understood the wounded heart of a nation tired of empty promises. Behind every packed rally, there was more than slogans. There was a mirror. Trump reflected the nonconformity of millions who felt they had been forgotten by the system. And for the first time in decades, a billionaire spoke the language of the common man. What no one imagined was that this boldness, this way of challenging the system, would become the trigger for a turbulent political era, marked by extreme loyalties, powerful enemies, and invisible wars about to begin. The presidency and the invisible wars. When Trump took office, the world sensed something was about to change, and it did. His way of governing broke protocols, defied traditions, and made enemies inside and outside the White House. He didn't govern like a politician. He governed like a CEO at war. Every decision felt like a chess move on a global chessboard. And with every move, he exposed the discomfort of elites who had grown accustomed to manipulating behind the scenes without being noticed. While the media attacked him daily, Trump fought battles few saw. These invisible wars were not just diplomatic, but ideological and informational. He confronted the global financial system, challenged international organizations, and questioned alliances that seemed untouchable. He was the first modern leader to use chaos as a political tool, and, paradoxically, chaos became his order. Many called it madness. He called it strategy. Behind every fiery speech lay a silent tactic, a hidden negotiation, a power struggle far beyond American borders. Trump was playing a game not everyone understood, a game where media, economics, and national security intertwined on a geopolitical chessboard. But the truth is that every war has a cost, and the price he would pay, not in dollars, but in reputation and legacy, was beginning to be exact. After all, the empire he had built in politics would be tested in ways he could never have imagined. The man behind the myth, the legacy and the controversy. Behind the imposing image and sharp phrases lies a man who has learned to live between the world's love and hate. Trump has always understood that being loved is good, but being remembered is better. His allies call him a visionary, his critics a tyrant. And between these two versions, perhaps lies the truth. He is the product of a time when courage and controversy have become synonymous. Few would bear the burden of being who he is, and even fewer would dare to try. Even out of power, his name still echoes in headlines, debates, and dinner tables. He redefined what it means to be a public figure, transforming politics into spectacle, and spectacle into power. It's impossible to deny Donald Trump changed the way the world views leadership, influence, and the media. He demonstrated that, in the 21st century, whoever controls the narrative controls the world. And perhaps this was his greatest lesson, and his greatest heresy. But at the end of it all, a question remains that time has yet to answer. Was Trump the villain of a corrupt era, or the man who had the courage to expose the era's corruption? History is still being written, and like every character who challenges the system, he remains somewhere between myth and judgment. Perhaps this is Donald Trump's true power, to continue dividing the world, even when he no longer needs to say a word. The price of defying the world. Ultimately, Donald Trump proved that true power lies not only in governing, but in dividing opinions while still remaining center stage. He understood that every empire begins with an idea, and that to shape the world, one must first challenge those who rule it. And perhaps this is the greatest secret of his trajectory, not seeking to be loved, but to be inevitable. But what about you? What would you have done if you were in his shoes? Would you have the courage to go against the tide, face criticism, be canceled, challenged, attacked, and still carry on? Perhaps Trump's story reminds us that, at some point, we all have to choose between pleasing the world or fulfilling the purpose we were born to fulfill. So tell me, would you rather follow the system or be the next to challenge it? If this video made you think, like it, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to continue exploring the behind the scenes of power, wars, and the minds that changed the course of history. Because the world may forget common names, but it never forgets those who had the courage to challenge it.